Where'd you go? Ready? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the North West Area Planning Committee, today on the 3rd of November. My name is Councillor Maddie Thompson. I'm the chairman of this committee. Before we commence the business of the meeting, there are a few housekeeping rules to go through. Members, we're now working with the setup for the meeting as agreed at Council on the 2nd of September. Most aspects are back to the pre-COVID normal. However, some people will choose to wear a mask or take other measures, and I would ask you to respect that, please. We're streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. When invited to speak, please turn on your microphone and speak clearly, referencing a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers. Keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible, and ensure your microphones remain off when not speaking, as this is important for the live streaming to be heard clearly. Please, a couple of other things, please be aware of the differing levels of the floor in the chamber and the steps between them. And the other thing is fire. I'm not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarm does sound, we do need to leave by this door and assemble in the car park at the front of the building that way. Right, members, another thing is there is a members update which was issued a couple of days ago, I think. Anyway, items 6 and 7 on the agenda, there is a members update. So item 2 is apologies for absence, please, Mr. Cottage.
Thank you, Chairman. We have received apologies of absence from Councillor Jarvis.
Thank you. Right, item 3 is the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 6th of October. Minutes are found on pages 7 to 12. We need to approve them as a true and accurate record, or correct them if not. I so move. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Councillor White is the winner. Does any member wish to raise a matter of accuracy? If so, please just... Okay. So can I take those as accepted by assent? Thank you very much. Item 4 is declaration of interest, another long one to read out, I'm afraid. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other pecuniary interests or non-pecuniary interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraphs 6 to 8 inclusive of the Code of Conduct for members. And members are reminded they're required to disclose any such interests if they become aware throughout the meeting. Right, first of all, I have Councillor Keys.
Right, I've got a non-pecuniary interest for 901. I can see the applicant's father's house from my house, but I can see a lot of houses from my house. And I've got 987. I've got a pecuniary interest, very slight, I'm led to believe, but I've not formally been told. I can't say anything, but I'm doing it for the benefit, and I'll be leaving the building leaving this chamber for 9807, and I will go home after that if I'm not required back.
Lucky you, you're not required back.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Durham?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. A non-pecuniary interest, that's a member of Essex County Council who are statutory consultees in the planning process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fleming?
Non-pecuniary as a member of Essex County Council who are consultees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Everybody? Wonderful, thank you. Right, so we move to agenda item 5, which is Ivy House, Hackmans Lane, Purleigh. There's no members update on this one, so we just have the presentation, please, and then we can move on. Ms. Bowles.
Thank you, Chair. The planning permission is sought for the demolition of the existing dwelling and erection of a 2-storey replacement dwelling with an attached gym and garage. Here's the location plan. The site's accessed via a private access track, which extends around 300 metres from Hackmans Lane to the application site, which is outlined in red here. We have the existing site plan, which shows the existing dwelling and garage building currently on the site. We've got the proposed block plan, which shows the proposed replacement dwelling. Got the existing elevations of the dwelling currently on site, and the existing roof and floor plans. and the existing garage building. We've got the proposed elevations of the replacement dwelling and the proposed floor plans and roof plan. We've got the existing and proposed street screen elevation here. Whilst the built form at the site has increased, it's not considered to be out of keeping with the existing dwellings in the vicinity of the site. And then we have some photographs of the application site and the existing dwelling, and some photographs of the surrounding area, including the neighbouring dwelling. The proposed replacement dwelling is significantly larger than the dwelling which it would replace. However, having regard to the context of the site and the scale and design of the existing dwellings within the vicinity of the site, it is considered that on balance the proposal is acceptable. Therefore, the proposed replacement dwelling is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, I'm going to now open the discussion and invite you to put any questions or make any comments you have on the report. Out of that, I hope a proposal will be made, including planning reasons or conditions or all of that. If seconded, we'll debate that specific proposal.
I'd like to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation and approve this application. Because I called it in because the parish council had concerns over sewage and flooding, but I see that they've been addressed under a condition, but I wanted to be certain that there was a condition added for that, and now that it's added, I'm absolutely happy with this application, so I only called it in because I wanted to be certain.
Fine, thank you. So proposal to accept the recommendation in the name of Councillor Miss White, seconded by Councillor Keys. Can we have a show of hands, please? I know I heard a lot of agrees, but okay, that's unanimous, everyone. Thank you very much. That's item 5 is approved in line with the officer's recommendation. So we move to agenda item 6, Walden Cottage, 58 Walden House Road. We do have the agent to speak following Miss Bowles, your report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So planning permission is sought for the replacement of the existing bungalow with a 2-storey dwelling and a detached garage and the extension to the garden land. Here we've got the location plan, which shows the location of the existing dwelling. Here we've got an existing site plan, and the area hatched red here is the proposed extension of the garden land. We've got the block plan, which shows the replacement dwelling and garage, and the existing elevation and floor plans of the bungalow currently on site. The proposed elevations of the replacement dwelling and the proposed floor plans and the proposed garage. As set out in the report, there is an extant planning permission for a 2-storey replacement dwelling at the site. However, the design of the previously approved dwelling was a traditional farmhouse, as you can see, which was considered to be in keeping with the rural area and was of a smaller scale in terms of width and depth. In addition, the previously approved application didn't include the extension of the garden land. We've got photographs of the application site here. You can see this is the view of the site from the road. And then we've got photographs of the area surrounding the site. Whilst there is an extant permission for a 2-storey dwelling, the increased scale and alterations of the design of the dwelling are considered to result in a development which is dominant, bulky, and out of keeping with the rural area in which it's set. The proposed extension to garden land is considered to significantly exacerbate the harm of the proposal and would result in an unnecessary intrusion into the open and undeveloped countryside. Therefore, the application is recommended for refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, and Mr. McKenna, please come forward, take a seat. Please use the microphone when you begin to speak. We're just getting the timer up. You will have exactly 2 minutes from when you start to speak, so make yourself comfortable. And I am very, very strict. You don't get so much as a nanosecond over the 2 minutes. So when you're ready, thank you.
I would start by acknowledging that the information provided to members in the officer's report is substantially incorrect and is therefore misleading. Page 2 of the report for this application shows the site size as being twice the size of the application site. Notwithstanding this, a substantial part of the land the council illustrates on the drawing of page 2 of the report is agricultural land, not in the applicant's ownership. Still, it is a considerable part of the reason for refusal. The land which forms the application is purely amenity land. Therefore, this hefty reason for refusal should be dismissed. The actual application site before you has existing planning permission for a 4-bedroom detached dwelling house, which is extant. Similarly, this planning application is for a 4-bedroom detached dwelling house. The only difference between this application and that of the previously permitted scheme is simply a matter of design and scale. We believe this site deserves a bespoke, sympathetic and appropriate design that reflects the quality of the site and the broader vernacular of Great Totham. The application is carefully designed and uses high quality materials. The design makes architectural references to both the existing and newer houses in Walden House Road. Recently approved homes of similar sizes on smaller sites exist within 500 metres of the site. Regarding scale, the application dwelling house is only 13% larger than the currently permitted scheme. This increase is partly due to the inclusion of a home office, which has never been so important in these uncertain times of COVID-19 and ongoing sustainability. This increase in scale is offset by including additional land to the rear of the property, thus offering an increased house size. This land is removed from the highway. Great Totham is awash with large detached housing such as this application. This application's design therefore reflects, reinforces and complements the village and wider area. The council's recommendation for refusal based on the above is therefore misleading at best.
Perfect timing, thank you. Right, members, that is our only public speaker. So as before, I open the discussion, invite you to put questions or make comments, and then hopefully we'll have a proposal to debate. I've got a whole bunch of hands up. Councillor Keys did call it in, so I'll go to him first and then I'll do it the order I spotted you in, unless you prefer to go later. Okay, I spotted you in the order of Councillor Morley, Councillor White, Councillor Durham.
Yes, I'd like to know what the height difference of the property proposed at the moment to the one that was originally proposed, please.
Okay.
Through you, Chair, the height is very similar. I think it's about 0.1 metres shorter than the previously approved dwelling.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Miss White, I think I got you next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I mean, I have to say, if it's around about the same height and it's just a little bit bigger, and if it is only 13% bigger, I've actually got no problem with it, and I'm happy to put forward a proposal that we approve it, because I think if we go to appeal on this one, we've turned a rock and a hard place. It already has permission, residential permission. I think to refuse it is just ridiculous. So I say I'm happy to put forward a proposal that we go against the officer's recommendation and we approve this application. Don't know if I'll get a second or not, but that's my opinion.
We have got a seconder, but I'm going to carry on, let the discussion and questions carry on. So, Councillor Durham.
Thank you. Can we have that one and the proposed, please? Right, and now back to the other one, please. Okay. Well, my personal view, I mean, a couple of points. I mean, yes, in respect of including a home office, we now have planning guidance that there should be allowances made for home working facilities. That's absolutely acceptable. But I don't think it's in keeping or sympathetic with the location, to be quite honest. The extant design is, and if we can just now go back again to the proposed. Can we go back to the proposed?
I think we're working on it.
Yeah, thank you. I just think that is desperately incongruous, and you know, it's not a question of my personal preference. I won't express, you know, that, but I just think in this particular location, that is just not in keeping, and I actually agree with the officer's recommendation on this. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chairman. One question is in terms of the amenity land. My understanding is that the land around it is not amenity land. It is just agricultural or fields or grazing land. Could the officers clarify that for us? Because my understanding it's not amenity land at all.
The land to the rear, as demonstrated on this plan here, so this is the additional garden land. They're proposing to change the garden land, but it is currently opened agricultural land.
Okay, Ms. Bowles. If we go to the existing replacement dwelling which has been approved and to the layout of that, please. From what I can see on that design, the room that's on the bottom left is described as a family room. So could that not be used for home working? Okay, so you know already that there is space in the approved dwelling. I also agree in terms of the offerer's recommendation that the proposed development that's approved is within keeping within Walden House Road. Walden House Road is very much the mixed range of houses, but there isn't anything that matches what's being put forward at this particular time. The larger houses that probably are about half a mile away are on Kelvedon Road. So the development in terms of what's proposed and what's there at the moment, and in terms of the type of properties that Walden House Road exists at the moment, this thing would not fit and would be, as Councillor Durham said, the officers say, would be totally incongruous with what's on that road at the moment.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Fleming next.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask Ms Bowles, do you have pictures of the neighbouring properties? Yeah.
It's one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or was it?
Do you have them either side
It's the
at all?
last one.
Yeah, through you, Chair, these are the only pictures I have. I don't have any of the actual properties within the plots.
Thank you. So, just through you, Chair, Ms Bowles, just to give me an idea. So, is it the sort of properties either side? Are they single story, double story, or sort of rough sizes?
Through you, Chair, sorry, I don't have that information.
Thank you.
It's okay. Oh, sorry, Councillor Siddle.
Yeah, well, I can answer that question, having been brought up in Great Totham. So right next to the property to the left is a field. To the right of the property is a bungalow, which is set back from the road. Behind that is a detached house, but not particularly imposing or large. Opposite this property is open fields. There is also a small farmhouse opposite, set back from the road. To the right of that, sort of if you're looking away from the property, is some agricultural buildings and a barn conversion, and again an old-fashioned farmhouse. If we go to the other side of so you go a bit further, we've got the Great Totham Primary School, and then moving further up the road, you've got smaller detached houses and bungalows and things like that. There is nothing that is a large Georgian imposing house.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Mr. Lee, yes, I was going to ask Mr. Lee for your comments.
Just to say,
Are
I'm
you
just
doing
doing
a
it on
Google
Google
Earth?
Earth. I'd have to just concur with, as I always advise, members not to necessarily take what one member says without validation or anything. I just say, looking at Google Earth, I'd have to agree with what Councillor Siddle summarised it as roughly. The only other thing I'd want to raise is obviously the agent made a comment that the site wasn't being made any larger as part of the application. But what I'd want to just quote is actually a plan that was submitted as part of the application. So this is from the applicant, from the agent, and it states that the original site area was 1,485 metres squared. The site increase area, which is their wording, is 651.9 metres squared, and the proposed site area is 2,136.9 metres squared. So not quite, but just under 50% increase in site area from this application. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Morley.
It's not, yeah, it's not a question of the size, it's just the look of the place, to be honest with you. Yeah, I really don't think it's in keeping in that area there, I'm sorry, but
No,
it's just the look, it's so imposing.
it is.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of the issue about the increase of garden size is the increase of what we like to call domestic paraphernalia, which is, you know, washing lines, sheds, goalposts for the kids, all that kind of thing. Is that roughly? Okay. Right, I think it's back to you, Councillor Keys.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yes, sorry. Microphone, please. Yes, thank you.
Right, yeah, I've got a couple of things here. 3.21, it says it's dominant bulking, wholly out of keeping, massive house. Now, just up the road, Councillor Siddle just said, I think he remembers, probably, I don't know the name of the place, John Knight's, the one on the corner, built that big place. Well, I think probably this one would fit inside it. And that's just up as you look at the property to the left-hand side. And opposite that white farmhouse we can see across the road, that's having an extension on the side of it as we speak. It's been passed. It has got a bigger footprint, but it's lower. It's got no chimney, so in fairness, it is 1.85 metres, which to us looks 6 foot virtually lower because it's got no chimney stack. It is a bigger footprint, but it's not so high in the thing. Wholly outkeeping, jarring addition to the landscape. It says here at 5.28, wholly outkeeping, prominent and jarring addition to the landscape. 200 yardishes to the right. It is a flat roof which shows no character whatsoever. Primary school, which I think is like a pimple on an elephant. That's horrendous, but that's been passed a long while. It's a new build, so it's a lot better than the old bungalow, which had critical windows and obviously carbon footprint's terrible. Is this, it's not overbearing on a neighbours, officers saying, but then in 3.21 they're saying the opposite on 5.34, and it's got more parking spaces for vehicles for off-road parking, which I think all of us that live in the area know that that school is an absolute nightmare for drop-offs and pick-offs, so there's many cars as we can get off the road as possible. And with a big house, you will have people coming and see you, well, even if you've got a small house. So I think the vehicle spaces are definitely a bonus to it with the garage. And that's all I can say. But I would like to second Councillor White's proposal.
Okay, before we vote on that with the complete proposal.
You come back.
Yes, sorry, please do come back.
Mr. Chairman, just make a couple of points on what Councillor Keys just said. Reading 5.3.4, my understanding is that it says there is no objection on impact on neighbours, so I don't see an inconsistency with that.
No, I didn't say impact on neighbours, it just said it was overbearing, but then you said...
Yeah, 5.3.4 is relation to impact on neighbours, that, well, overbearing is in relation to the character appearance of the area, so they're two different material considerations in the termination of the application. The other point is, this application hasn't particularly raised any issues in relation to renewable energies or sustainable development. So the point about a newer dwelling being more sustainable than the existing one would be a neutral point, as in a different new dwelling, such as the one that's previously been approved, would still bring the exact same benefits as this application is. So my advice would be that would be a neutral material consideration in the termination of this application, as would additional car parking, that as long as it's in accordance with policy requirements, anything above that, I would advise shouldn't really be given any weight in the termination of the application, because we couldn't really assess that or give it any real value. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, it was Councillor White's proposal, but before we vote on it, we do need the reasons for approval in full, addressing all the reasons in the report for refusal, and any conditions that specific that we wouldn't delegate to the officers, which would be the next thing.
I'd use the same reasons for refusal as the first application that's currently valid on the site, the extent permission, and just the fact that there's already residential planning permission and it's only 13% bigger and it's actually lower in height than the existing planning permission, that I think it's acceptable.
I'd like to say, I'm not surprised Mr Durham hasn't said it, Councillor Durham, but if it was passed, we're having an electric charge socket for a car.
I believe that's the
Policy.
standard
Policy, isn't it?
policy.
That is still.
Does that satisfy
Have to
the
be
requirements? Okay, thank you very much. So we have the proposal. Everyone clear what the proposal is and the reasons for it? Thank you very much. So those in favour, please. Oh, sorry, and conditions delegated to the officers if no one has anything specific in mind. Actually, I wonder if you would add about external lighting, because we have had very large houses.
There's
I
loads
think
of
to
lights
say
on
large,
at night,
like
isn't
that,
there?
like Christmas trees.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that.
My village, but
There's a lot of
it's-
lights on the street.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to say that, that
don't
we
need
can
to
put a condition in that external lighting has to be agreed in writing should the
Approved in
application be
writing,
approved. Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay, thank you very much. Right, those in favour of that, please show. 2, okay, those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that proposal falls. So I'm going to revert to the officer's recommendation. So, okay, I so propose to seconder. I think Councillor Siddle was there first. Okay, that's as it stands in the report. So could we have a show of hands on that, please? Those in favour? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against? Thank you very much. Okay, that application is refused in line with the reasons given in the officer's report. Thank you very much. Now, I
Right, I'm
believe
going to have
this
to leave
is
you,
right. We'll
much
give
as I'm frustration, but I'm doing it for my own.
As you're that
Benefit.
journey, I'm not sorry that you're leaving, John.
Thank you.
See you later.
Yes, sorry. I mean, obviously, speakers from the previous item, if you'd like to leave, please do. If you wish to stay as members of the public, oh, sorry, yes, Councillor White, could you? If you'd like to stay with us, please do. Right, so moving on, we have, I hate having bits of paper. Agenda item 7, so this is land adjacent to 24 Catchpole Lane, Great Totham. There is an item on, there is some information on this on the members' update. We do have a public speaker, which is the agent who will follow the officer presentation. So please, Smart.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, by way of verbal members' update, a unilateral undertaking has been submitted by the agent in relation to the RAMS contribution. However, it doesn't appear that the associated fee has been received and the agreement has not been checked by our legal team to date, so still a reason for refusal. Outline planning permission is sought for one detached dwelling at land adjacent to 24 Catchpole Lane, Great Totham. The application is to consider the general principle of development of the land for a single dwelling only, with all matters reserved for consideration under a future reserved matters application, should outline planning permission be granted. Here is the location plan. And here is the site plan. The application is effectively a resubmission of a previous application which was refused by the council in 2019 and subsequently dismissed at appeal. There have been no amendments to this current application since the previous refusal. At appeal, the inspector considered that the site provides an important open countryside gap in the road and contributes to a significant break in the residential development. The inspector concluded that the domestication of the site and introduction of built form would distinctly alter the character and appearance of the site and erode the pleasant rural gap in development on the northern side of Catchpole Lane. Here are some photos of the site. That's just showing looking north at the site, and then the next slide are the views from the it's the sorry, I've lost my just the views from the west and the east. Is the next one, Hannah? Sorry. Thank you. In conclusion, whilst the lack of a 5-year housing land supply has been taken into account, it is considered that the benefits of the scheme, being the limited addition of one dwelling, would not outweigh the harm to the open character and appearance of the area, which, due to the urbanisation of the site, would detract from the intrinsic character and beauty of the countryside. Therefore, the development is considered to form an unjustified sprawl of built form on this currently undeveloped site, and the proposal is recommended for refusal on this basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Legree, would like to come forward? I know you've heard the rules many times, but I need to go through. For form's sake, you have 2 minutes from when you begin to speak and not a moment longer. Thank you. When you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The reference is just made to the unilateral undertaking. A unilateral undertaking is precisely that. It's submitted unilaterally. Should this have to go to appeal, then it would be a question that we'd have to seek costs against the authority for not accepting that unilateral undertaking. So the comments there are inappropriate and unreasonable. The second aspect is this application does differ from the previous scheme because it's for single-storey development, where the previous one was for a house. The case officer has mentioned house on numerous occasions in her report. However, reference to paragraphs 5.8, 5.13 and 6.1 of the statement we submitted makes it clear this is for a single-storey dwelling. So a fundamental difference. The other fundamental difference is the housing supply. Now, your housing supply is actually not that far short of the 5-year supply of requirements. Therefore, even one dwelling would make a difference. It would get you closer to that limit and stop other schemes elsewhere. Members, whenever you see an application before you, you normally get a mailbag full of comments from locals, etc. You'll see from the agenda here, there is not a single objection from any local resident or from any consultee. This site is a worthless scrub bit of land with a high embankment on one side, a ditch and a pump house on the other, and it also has quite a slope to it. It's not capable of any alternative use. It can't be used for farming purposes. It can't be used even for amenity purposes if there was such a phrase or use for the site. It's literally sandwiched between the bungalow and the pump house. It has no other purpose whatsoever. If you have any question about the impact that it might have on the countryside, I would really ask you to go and visit the site, and you'll see the impact will be non-existent. Thank you.
Mr. Lee, I think you had some...
Chairman, thank you. In relation to the point on the unilateral undertaking, the planning agent, Mr. Legree, is correct that it is a unilateral undertaking. It's a singly signed document provided by the appellant or the applicant. That doesn't mean the council has to accept it. The point is there is a reasonable charge that reasonable cost that we charge for checking of the unilateral undertaking. To my knowledge, that this hasn't been received and the unilateral undertaking has not been checked. Therefore, at the moment, a reasonable reason for refusal stands on the fact that there is not a checked and accepted unilateral undertaking. It's a standard approach that members will all be very familiar with from committee reports and also appeal decisions where inspectors have not given costs for us for this approach. So I would not be fearful of such an approach, members. Secondly, in relation to the comment on scrubland, as the case officer stated in the presentation, the inspector previously looked at this site and had a significantly different opinion on the value of this site. And as I've told you all members 100 times, you're probably very bored of me telling you, the material consideration and termination application is a previous appeal decision, and the inspector has valued this site significantly. So irrespective of what my personal opinion is, my professional opinion, what the agent's professional opinion is, or anyone else around this table, the inspector has looked at this site and found it to have intrinsic value, and that is a material consideration and termination of this application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I spotted Councillor White first, then Councillor Durham, and
Thank you, Madam. Has there been any consultation with the Environment Agency in regards to the pumping station, or whoever happens to manage them these days? They keep changing their names every week, and that's my first one. One was the flood zone or flood zones 2 and 3. Were they where the yellow line was squiggled on the drawing? Because I wasn't sure about that one. So it's the south, looked like the southwest of the site. There was like a squiggledy line. And the second one is that for me it is a materially different application because it is for a bungalow, and we now don't have a 5-year housing land supply. So I'm sort of in two minds about whether it should be approved or refused. But if we could just have those answered, that'd be good. So I know sometimes if there are a problem near a pumping station, the Environment Agency or whoever deals with them, they object.
Through you, Chair. There hasn't been any consultation received. I don't think we have consulted them on the pumping station on this application. Sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Through Chairman, in relation to the other 2 points, Councillor White is correct that, the swirly yellow line, for want of a better phrase, is the flood zone 1 and 2. One thing I'd just like to highlight that I'm sure members are aware of in paragraph 5.3.5 is the inspector's comments about the flood zone, or more importantly, the reasoning why this dwelling is now set back further than the other properties. And as that explains, the inspector actually raised this as a concern, and while there was acknowledgement that there was one property further back, it was considered that the strong prevailing pattern of development here is fairly linear, and that the provision of one dwelling in that site didn't respect that, and that was part of the inspector's decision. And just in relation to Councillor White's point about the 5-year land supply and the need to balance that against the provision of a dwelling, I can reread it. The appeal site provides an important open countryside gap in the road and contributes to a significant break in the residential development. The site has a predominantly rural character and appearance and helps to define the edge of the village. And it goes on. That isn't talking about harm from a 2-storey dwelling. It's not talking about harm from the appearance of the development. It's talking about the principle of developing on this site. So whether it was a 1-bedroom property or a mansion, the inspector has found that actually this site is really important for being the end of the village, and allowing any form of development, whether it's a 1-storey development or a 2-storey development, is what the inspector has found conflict with. And that's really important, I think, for members. And as we've seen on numerous appeal decisions over the last 18 months, 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom appeals for 1, 2, 3, 4 dwellings are being given minimal weight for solving the 5-year land supply. So while every dwelling is a step towards a 5-year land supply, the weight that it can be given in the balancing process has to be how significant it jumps. That's the concern with the schemes for 200 hours, is because inspectors give a lot of weight to them because it's a big jump. But, so for that reason, I would just be highlighting members to all the previous appeal decisions that say 1 dwelling is minimal weight. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, I've got Councillor Durham, then I think Councillor Morley, yes, and Councillor Siddle. Thank you. Councillor Durham.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make a couple of points. Firstly, nothing rolls me more than being threatened, and that goes down extremely badly in my books. And as Mr. Lee has said, I think the inspector's comments about the value of this piece of land are absolutely valid, whether it be 1-storey or double-storey or whatever. He made it very clear that this was not a useless piece of scrubland, as it was explained to us. And the other matter, as much as it pains me to say, I wish we were only a small distance away from our 5-year land supply. We are nowhere near it, and one house isn't going to make a jot of difference. And I just think that the reasons for refusal are quite sound and are tested at appeal, and I think if this goes to appeal, we would have exactly the same result for those reasons. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Morley and then Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you, flood zone. I'd imagine that's for obviously not water, but we live near one of these, and when they go wrong, they're pretty nasty. Power cuts. So is it the flood zone? Excuse me, from the sewage? I take it, and I'd imagine that bit of wasteland is to allow for a little bit of leeway. So when they do flood, and I know they flood, no good saying they don't. They rely on electric motors. Is that what really the flooding is about? Please, thank you.
I think it depends on whether we're talking about pluvial or fluvial or.
Chairman, we don't have the answer off the cuff.
No, really nasty stuff. That's what I mean.
I'm getting the message that Councillor Siddle can help with that, since he's next anyway. Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chairman. So the flooding, if you notice to the left of the site, is Catchpole Brook. The Catchpole Brook is, although it's a small brook, it is prone to flooding in that particular area. I was brought up on the road opposite this particular site, so I know it, and I've known it for a long time. and I played in that brook when I was a child. And the issue about it is at that particular point, it goes under the road. So it immediately causes a pinch point for the brook, and therefore that particular field can flood. In terms of this particular site, it does give a really nice piece of open countryside at the edge of the village. If the proposed dwelling was in line with the other houses, then perhaps that would be more favourable. But it can't be in line with the other houses because of the flooding. So really, this site, although you can see, this could be utilised, and it perhaps it's not used for much at the moment. However, on balance, because of the problems with this site, it really isn't suitable for a development, in my view. We need to create good street scenes in our villages, and this would not create a good street scene, and it would also be really imposing on the property next door because of its location. In terms of objections, there has been an objection. It was part of the update, and there's been an objection from the parish council, and they are against this particular application. So there is an objection to this from the parish council. So I can see that, yes, there could be a benefit to having this developed, but in terms of the problems and the issues, that it is completely outweighed, and it wouldn't be built in a suitable location. Thank you.
Councillor Miss White, did we almost have a proposal?
I don't think there's much point in me making a proposal. I could make it. I don't know. I'll get a seconder, but I'll make the proposal that we approve the application because I think that because we don't have a 5-year land supply, the balance should be in favour of. Proposal that I support this application because we do not have a 5-year land supply, and the balance should be tilted in favour of sustainable development. I believe that on the edge of the village this is a sustainable location, and I think the benefit of sustainable location overcomes the harm of the building in terms of the location. I think it makes a logical stop to the existing development, and the RAMS payment can easily be conditioned and has been mentioned at several planning fields. I don't know if I'll get a second, but that's the proposal.
Is that, before we go to there, is that the only condition that you would put, which is perfectly doable? Yeah. Delegate all the standard ones. But that specifically we would, Mr. Lee.
Through Chairman, that wouldn't be something we'd recommend for a condition. What we'd suggest is that it would be delegated to officers to ensure that the UU was acceptable and as with the standard one. Thank you.
Okay, is there a seconder? Okay, I'm afraid that falls. So moving on, okay, we have a proposal in the name of Councillor Durham to accept the officer's recommendation as is, seconded by Councillor Siddle. Those in favour, pause up, please. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against? Okay, that proposal is passed. So the application is, oh dear, I'm sorry, is refused in line with the officer's recommendation. So now we're moving on. I don't know what's the matter with this. We'll have to have a word about this. Other items of business the chairman decides are urgent. You'll be delighted to hear there are none. Any closure of the meeting, members and officers, thank you all for your contributions this evening. I draw the meeting to a close at that clock says 8:20. It'll do. As the meeting is now closed, members are advised not to enter into any further discussion. And please leave the meeting via the exit door behind the top table. Thank you. Meeting closed.